Have you ever wondered what a £27,000 Dakar bike is really like to ride? Like how it compares to a reasonable, modified 14 grand Tenere 700? I got my friend Sai and his Yamaha Dakar race bike that he's using in the 2022 Dakar Rally, and we're putting it against my Tenere 700 project bike to find out just how different they really are. This T7 isn't an off-the-shelf bike. The project bike that I intended this to be is designed for one thing and one thing only: to be an off-road bike, a big twin-cylinder off-road trail bike. I changed the tyres out for desert tyres, so we've got Metzeler Karoo Extremes front and rear. It's got different suspension from Rally Ray products. It's got a fuel controller and a different exhaust and a different air filter, and it's lighter, and it's only designed to be a trail bike and be good at it.
So originally this bike was a WR450F. So what Dragon Tech and Calais have done is take that bike and turn it into a desert slaying machine. It's good for one thing and one thing only, and that's eating miles in the open desert. It's had a lot of work done to it. There's nothing standard about this bike anymore, from the chassis to the fuel tanks to the engine to everything basically. So yeah, it's very different from where it started.
So over the last week or so, I've spent a lot of time on this Tenere, getting comfortable on it, starting to figure out how it works as best as I can. And it's fun. It's a bike I really enjoy riding. As adventure bikes go, I think it's pretty capable. It's up there with the best adventure bikes I've ridden, and in disguise, the way the engine is and all the mods we've made, it is a really capable bike. Dry riverbed. Now this is Dakar. Dry riverbeds for days.
Riding this T7, I felt pretty comfortable straight away getting on it. I've ridden the standard T7, and then this one in comparison was much better, I'd say. With the fuel controller and the exhaust system on this, it was much nicer. I felt a lot more free, and the exhaust is awesome. It sounds like a space shuttle taking off when you turn the throttle, which puts a smile on your face. So.
Immediately, I'm just turning it around at the moment. It's tall, but it's light. My God, it feels light. And there's a nav tower in the way, which is an odd thing. It's big. It's so light and free, but the thing that surprises me more than anything is that the suspension is actually surprisingly plush. I would have expected it to kind of be a little bit stiffer than it is. Caught the GoPro on the nav tower. Look at that. What a trail. Wow. I expected to have to change down then, and I just opened the throttle and it just started pulling. It's light and poppy and super enjoyable to ride. Wow. And the fork feels like it's stiff, but it's also just following the ground so well. Like, it's not skipping off any of the rocks, it's like staying in the right part of the stroke. And this isn't even a factory fork on this bike, this is just, woohoo, you go dude. That was full on.
Size rally bike is fantastic. It's awesome. It's kind of instantly comfortable. It's probably the first rally bike I've had the pleasure of riding where I don't instantly feel like the tower on the front's making the front like vague. So that was super nice. Just felt like you get on it, ride it like a dirt bike, because it looks like a big intimidating bike, doesn't it? So it looks big, you know, to ride. It feels like it's just super easy to manage, actually.
This is one of those bikes that I have got on and I immediately gel with. It is doing everything I expect. It feels incredible. So light and effortless, and it tracks the ground so well, and the power is broad. It's just forever power. It's not mind melting. It's like, you know, the Tenere is also very quick. You know, the Tenere is probably quicker, but this, compared to what you expect a 450 to feel like, just has this weird thing where it feels like it's going to run out, but then it doesn't, and it just keeps pulling and pulling and pulling.
It's a million miles away from the Tenere. No matter what you say about how good you've made an adventure bike, like, it's just not even in the same league.
There's two things really that really jumped out coming off the T7, which I think for an adventure bike I am very comfortable on, and I can ride it quickly for an adventure bike. But when you get on the rally bike, it is immediately apparent that the limit is so far from where I am riding it and what I am capable of doing with it, even though it's not scaring me. So when I'm riding that speed on the adventure bike, I feel like I am starting to toy with the limit of what I am comfortable to do on it. And it is kind of in a position where when you ride quickly, you could easily overstep the mark and have quite a monumental crash by coming in a tiny bit too hot to a corner. And then I got on the rally bike and I immediately went, I have no idea where the limit on this bike is, but I would be very comfortable to go a damn sight faster than we are to find that limit. The breadth of what it is capable of is just astounding compared to the T7. And there's not a slight on the T7. The T7 is very capable. It is just the reality of what Dakar bikes are. They are designed to go so damn fast and deal with so much. And the other thing that amazed me about that Yamaha in particular compared to the other rally bikes that I've had the pleasure of riding is that it felt like immediately I had a really good understanding of what the bike was capable of. The feedback was really natural. The setup is so balanced and really, really good that it was supernatural for me. I got on it, it put a smile on my face, and I hopped off every rock for about 2 kilometers, and then I started going fast around corners. And we had an enduro bike here as well in the background, and I guarantee you I can go significantly quicker around the dirt roads and the kind of rally spec terrain that we have here in Portugal on that rally bike than I can on an enduro bike.
bike on the Tenere. Difference is it's just such a different platform. How they feel, the feedback they give you, how the weight transfers. This Tenere does a lot so well for an adventure bike, but it is 100% still an adventure bike. I don't think it matters how much you do to it. You're not going to completely negate that effect. Like, it's really impressive what people are managing to do with their Teneres. Pro riders like Tarez and Baturi, and even like for me, how I feel like I can ride this bike versus it is really good, but then as soon as you jump on size bike, the difference is in just how they feel is so stark, and that's really surprised me, because I've kind of gone through a patch with this Tenere where I've ridden it quite a bit, and I'm starting to do some really technical riding on it, and I feel like I can ride it pretty quick for an adventure bike, and I've convinced myself through that process that this is a really good bike. But then when you really break it down of what a Dakar bike can do versus what one of these can do, it's really blown my mind a little bit, just in how the potential feels. Like, you get on size bike and the potential feels quite limitless.
I think there's a bit of a misconception about how damn fast a 450cc rally bike is. I don't think it's your typical road association or adventure bike association of what power comes out of a dirt bike motor when you do what they've done to that one. One of the most surprising things for me when I jumped on that bike is how strong and how broad the power is. I spend a lot of time on enduro bikes, and when you ride enduro bikes, you have to use the gearbox a lot. It's the opposite on that 450, and it is phenomenal. The engine is, that's the only word I've got for it. The breadth of power is endless. Like, you can hold one gear, you could ride it everywhere in one gear. You could just put it in fourth gear, around here, third gear, just never touch the gearbox or the clutch if you didn't want to. It's not aggressive, but it's just monumental for such a small engine. It's like, yeah, amazing. So easy to ride.
Yeah, what stood out most for me is the main difference between the two. It's probably the smoothness of the engine. As you roll the throttle on the T7, it gives a very kind of distinctly kind of road bikey, adventure bikey feel to the acceleration and to the power delivery. Whereas obviously the rally bike, it's more of a kind of savage onslaught of acceleration, really. And it just kind of, while the rally bike just kind of asks you to deal with whatever it's throwing at you in terms of the acceleration, the T7 kind of makes it nice for you in the way that it accelerates. So big difference in the engine there.
This is a really good question. So I have spent a lot of time with that T7 now. Probably like 9 days of testing into working to get the setup good and the balance of it good and get it behaving as much like a dirt bike as I can for a 200 kilo bike. And it's good. I am very happy with it, like I've said already. And one of the interesting things with that is that I don't think it can be much better than it is in the guise that it is in, with 200 mil of travel and wide tires and 200 kilos of weight. I think if you can really see that in the way that people race Dakar now. If you go back and watch historic Dakar footage, late 80s, early 90s, when the bikes were 750 twins and they were 180 kilos plus fuel, they rode in a really different way. Those guys are still absolutely elite all-time level motorcycle riders, but when you watch the footage of that, the bikes look big and cumbersome and they don't have insane amounts of travel and really high quality, sophisticated suspension and chassis, and they don't weigh 150 kilos. And the Tenere feels a bit like that to me. Like I can do a lot with it, but it doesn't have the breadth of both ends. You can probably set it up to one or the other. And I think that is because of the limitations that an adventure bike has. Plus you're trying to deal with a ton more weight and all of the geometry compromises that come with it being vaguely capable on and off road. And the Tenere is lovely. And it's a really good bike for going a long way on, but you have to give up something. We're riding this kind of terrain here. Obviously, that isn't, it's not just designed for here. So in this environment, like this is super typical adventure bike in Europe riding. Which do you prefer?
That's a good question. Honestly, for the bits on the trail, I'll take the rally bike, and then for the bits on the road, I'll take the T7. But for me, the enjoyment is about the same on both. If I could take anything from the T7 and just put it into my Dakar bike, definitely the seat, definitely the quieter exhaust.
Hopefully that has kind of managed to convey the difference between rally bike, adventure bike, and explain it in some way. I think after spending nearly 2 weeks riding that Tenere and getting super comfortable on it, there's a part of my brain, just a slight part, that between that and watching Paul Tarres do insane things on his one, where I start to get this little idea in my head that Tenere is the god of bikes and capable beyond belief. And while it's very good, it is definitely still an adventure bike, and the gap is huge. And I've been surprised by how big that gap was, and that surprise happened immediately that I got on the WR. If you enjoy videos like this, hit the like button, maybe give us a subscribe. And if you want to see more about Si, he's going to Dakar. Well, by the time you watch this, it's probably, well, it depends what time in January you watch it really, but he's probably either going in a few days or there. So you can give him a follow. Where can they follow you?
You can follow me on my Facebook page, Simon Hewitt Dakar 2022, or on my website, simonhewitt.com.
Nice. And what's your number? 126. He's also got a few sponsor packs you can buy where he's got some really cool stuff in it. I'm sure he'll still sell you one even when he's in Dakar. So if you're keen. And yeah, otherwise, all the other good stuff. We've got a web shop, we sell some stuff, Fox Kit, got a Patreon page where you can help us make videos like this. They don't come cheap. I had to buy Si lunch today and pay his fuel. So if you could help me out, that'd be great. Otherwise, remember, life is definitely better when you're riding motorbikes.